Now, I'm very excited. Welcome back a man who makes some of the biggest decisions in all of circus sports and the vice president of operations and Mike Palm. You can follow Mike on X at Mike Palm Circa. Mike, thanks for coming back on the show, my man. I think we have a pretty big week coming on up.
Yeah, Kiev, it's great to be back with you again. This certainly is, one of our top 2 weeks of the year between the first weekend of March Madness and Super Bowl week. It's full tilt. We're max capacity, and we're just trying to push things and find out where they're going to break each year. But we're certainly excited again, and we'll have a ton of people coming through our doors over the next 7 days.
Oh, I imagine. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine is flying there right now, Sean Kanaki, who is on our site as well. So he's going to hang out there for about a week and have a great time with you guys. So, real exciting time of year. But before we get into the Super Bowl, what are your thoughts on how well the Circa Millions and the Circa Survivor went for 2024?
Yeah, I think it was a breakthrough year for Survivor. When you think about going from 9,200 entries in 2023 to 14,200, more than a 50% increase. I think it really took off this year, and the trajectory of the event got even steeper. And yet Jeff Benson and his team executed it flawlessly. And it just continues to grow. And we had so much chaos early on in the year with, almost 78% of the field being knocked out in the first 5 weeks. You worry about if people have an early exit, did they get their money's worth? What will their reaction be when it comes to signing up next year? But I think the FOMO of this Survivor is incredible. And people, can we do a mid-season one? Is there some way to get back in? First of all, not able to do it with our technology. And it sort of defeats the purpose of you must go 20-0, right? That's the standard. Yeah. But meanwhile, we're down to 500 people heading into week 6. We still had 8 folks go the 20-0 and split that 14.2 million. Each team got almost 1.8 million each. So, and some teams were one person. Some teams, Jeff Benson has to cut out all the checks and they fill out the tax form. One team had 17 different people getting a check. So, with the exchanges, there's a lot of different ways for people to get in and buy pieces of tickets. And that certainly happens. And that's also a great way for the original investors to monetize their tickets. We tried for the third straight year we just to talk about the millions, Kiev. We tried for the third straight year to get to 6,000, just short this year. We were just a tad short, but we've kept going from 4,700 to 5,300 now to almost 5,900. So we continue to make progress, and the millions continues to grow. So I give it an A as far as the contests go this year.
Absolutely. You blew my mind. I could not believe the amount of Circa Millions or Circa Survivor that was out there. I was actually concerned about the Circa Millions too. I was like, it's probably going to hit 5, not 6, but here we are right on the brink of 6. Just a fantastic job, man. And like I always say on this show, definitely the best betting games in sports. It's what it is. These contests are the best in sports, world premiere. If you like football, or if you're just thinking about the money and only having to go against a certain amount of people rather than like playing the Powerball, it's fun. And it brings in a lot of pleasure to us sports bettors as well. So thank you guys so much for putting on such a great show for us. One of these days, Mike, I'll get into the top 5. I'm just counting my blessings as we go. But there's a lot of sweats at the end, even up to the last games with the Colts, wasn't there?
Oh yes, as far as the Survivor went, we actually had 18 entries going into the final weekend. And at one point, one person had the late game. And the other 17 had all the early games. So 10 a.m. on the West Coast here. And at one point, they were split amongst 4 games. At one point, right before halftime, all of those games were losing. It was pretty incredible. You end up having Tampa Bay come back. Atlanta loses to Carolina in overtime. That knocks people out. The Colts went to overtime. Jacksonville really had the ball last in regulation with a chance to win it, couldn't get it done. So there were sweats all the way to the very end, and even in the millions, it came down to the Sunday night game, Vikings and Lions, to really determine the top 5.
Yeah, it really did. And, it was just crazy how that millions is. And right there, because you screw up and lose three the final week and you're all tied. I mean, that brings you down a significant amount of money, and it's like you're either split, possibly splitting a million between three people or splitting the second prize or something like that with 250,000. You can drop into the 10,000 range or lower, just by having a bad last week. So that's what I love about it.
Yeah, and if you looked at the leaderboard, we had the top 25 picks that we were tracking on the last week to sweat the millions as well. They're in pod one with Derek and crew. I mean, it was a pretty ugly showing for the top 20. There were a lot of 1-4s, 1-3-1s, and some people dropped, as you said, dropped several $100,000 in the places that they fell on the final week.
Yeah, it's just amazing how that works. And that's why I was like, if I put myself in that situation, I'd like to try, if I can have a handicap on it, to play the late Sunday night game, because then you have all the options in the world to know what you're kind of facing, kind of know where you're getting at and know what you can hedge. So having that just in your back pocket is an interesting way of thinking it. Obviously, you still want to have some sort of an edge in it, but that's the strategy part of it, really coming to the end. But Mike, I have to ask, do you foresee any changes to the Circa Millions for next year as this thing grows, or even to Circa Survival?
I don't. So we don't come out with the official rule set until after the schedule is announced. I don't think there's going to be any significant changes. It seems that the NFL is prepared to play those Christmas games whenever they fall during the week to create a second special week for us. And we've heard Roger Goodell talk about expanding to an 18-game regular season, which would mean 2 buys for every team. That would actually add 2 more weeks to the NFL schedule. So, I mean, when he does that, it might be 22-0 at that point that you're going to need to be to win the Survivors. So we say the more the merrier. I mean, obviously, the more entries you get, the greater chances are that people are going to go undefeated. So if we get 20,000 entries next year, which I don't think is out of line to think it's possible, I mean, now how many people are going to go 20-0? So it has to continue to get more challenging as you get more entries.
Well, absolutely. And the thing is that now I'm picking 22 teams, and I have to pick one of those kind of bad teams at some point, and that's where you're really starting to get into the dirt there, my man. That is tough. But that's what's so great about the contest. And hey, maybe you can make it to week 19 and everybody goes out with you, and that's sometimes how she goes too. It just doesn't happen often in this one because it's so big. But when was the last time that it didn't make it to week 20 or 19? However you had it.
It's always gone all the way.
Okay.
We've had it for 5 years, and the first year it was only 18-0, and 35 people went 18-0, and then when we expanded it, it's been between. It was 2, 3, 4, 5 people in the next few years, and then this year 8.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's always made it, and it's only year 5, and we're already almost up to 20 million. I think we'll be hitting 20 million next year, and I know I'll be a part of it. With Circa Millions, it makes me think of the quarterlies. Like, is there a way to? I mean, could you possibly add a game because there's too many splits? Or is that just still not in the cards? And obviously, you haven't had your meetings yet. But what way would you lean to?
I think it's good though. I think it's okay because you say 5 spots, but there's always usually a tie, and you end up paying 8, sometimes 12 people if there's for 5th place if there's a 6 or 7 way tie. It's okay. The more people that get money back, the better. The more likely that they're going to come next year. And not only come back, but do more entries than they did the previous year.
And no software changes, so that makes it a little bit easier to stick with the program. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the events going on at Circa in the D for the big weekend, man. I have a buddy up there, Sean, as you know, and I'm curious what kind of parties you guys are going to have and what kind of maybe betting fun is available to us public.
Yeah, so let's start out by talking about, we throw 2 parties for our invited casino guests that are, we say B+ tier and above the way we rank folks on their gaming. And those are, closed. The one at Circa will have between 700 and 800 people in the Galaxy Ballroom on the 3rd floor. And then at the D, we use the Detroit Ballroom on the 12th floor, have 50-50 between invited guests, 200 of them, and then 200 open to the public. So one of the 2 spots that's available to the public for purchase is the Detroit Ballroom at the D, and the other is Bar Canada. The difference, $175 per person at the ballroom upstairs, or $100 per person at Bar Canada, is that there's food included upstairs with it. Where at Bar Canada, it's not food; it's just a place to watch the game and all you can drink. Then we turn to Circa. We have the 2 massive parties, of course, the sports book, and I just checked about 30 minutes ago. We do have 2 booths still available in the sports book, and we have about a half dozen recliners still available. So there is some space still in the sports book for purchase. We'll have close to 500 people there, and then you include the first floor overhang pods where you can put up to 20 people. We section those off where the video poker machines are. Like I said, pod 1 where Derek and crew hangs out, and then we also do that with the overhang on the 2nd floor, and we sell those off as well. So I believe there's 1 pod left on level 1 and some spacing on level 2. Then Stadium Swim. You'll have over 2,000 people at Stadium Swim. We do still have GA available at Stadium Swim, $125 to get in. That is standing room. It does come with a buffet. Everybody that's a GA, we put on a huge buffet out on Stadium Swim, and they do a great job. They have pyrotechnic show, and it's a tremendous atmosphere out there. A couple cabanas available as well. And then let's not forget that we own the downtown Las Vegas Events Center, where we have the world's largest outdoor big game bash. You're not supposed to say Super Bowl with the trademark, but Super Bowl party. And we have out there every year, depending on how nice the weather is, between 9,000 and 11,000 people we fit into the event center every year, which you purchase tables, and it's X per person, and that goes towards your beverage. And then there's like 18 or 20 food trucks available for purchase out there as well for food. So when you add up all the parties, it's well over 15,000 people that'll be here on Sunday.
Oh my God. What are you going to do? Are you going to bounce around from party to party, or are you going to try to watch the game?
Well, that's exactly what we try to do is hit every party during the course of it. Of course, you don't want to lose too much of the game walking back and forth. And also you really don't want to miss the halftime show. Although this year maybe I'll miss a little bit of it. So I'll probably end up in the second half of the game and at the Circa party in the Galaxy Ballroom, because I have a couple tables of folks that I'm hosting there, but I will hit every party during the course of the game.
Absolutely. And I think I've aged myself out of these halftime shows now that I don't really know a lot of his music. He could be great for all I know, but it's just past me, my man. So, well, how about you for the betting side of things? Are you going to make some bets in this game? If so, what might you like?
Well, I have a couple in pocket, Kiev, and they're prop bets more so than anything. I mean, objectively, I guess we can cover this topic now. I think if you looked at this game in a vacuum, and you looked at the individual players on each team and the statistics that they've had this year, you would think the Eagles would be a 2-point favorite. But we all know how great Kansas City has been. And let's face it, they only lost 1 game all year. Forget that Denver game when they didn't play anybody. They lost 1 game. They were a 1-point favorite at Buffalo. Buffalo made the plays in the 4th quarter. Unlike in Kansas City in the playoffs, they were able to get the first downs. Josh Allen had the big 4th down run, and they ran the clock out on Kansas City. They find a way to win. They take advantage of everything. And people will say, oh, they get this call, they got that call. But they still have to do something when they get it. Did Josh Allen make the first down? It looked like maybe he did. The official on the top of the screen comes in. They say no. They review it. They say no. But Kansas still has to go down and drive and score a touchdown. And meanwhile, Buffalo has the ball back at the end to win the game, and they stop them. They make a play, whether it's on offense, it's on defense, or special teams. So even though my mind tells me Philadelphia is the play here, I'm not going to get in front of that train that is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. So I'm not going to bet the side. I do think it will be a higher scoring game. I did get over 48.5. It sits at 49 now most places. And I played 2 props. I think that Hurts will attempt a lot of passes in this game. I do, because I don't think you're going to be able to have those home run rushing attempts by Barkley. The safeties for Kansas City are too good tackling. I don't think if he makes second level, he goes to the house like he's done so many times in the playoffs. I bet his receiving yards over 13.5. So Barkley receiving yards over. And then I found a prop. I just thought it was mispriced. And you can look, I mean, books have thousands of different props. They're not all the same. Check out 4 or 5 different books. I found one. Will either team convert a fourth down on their own side of the field? So the fourth down starts at your own 49 or further towards your goal line, and you make it. And the odds were 3-1. I thought the odds should have been more like plus 170 or maybe plus 180. Because in today's NFL, listen, teams don't punt from the 45 anymore, right? The 40. And Philadelphia with the tush push, if they're outside their own 20, they're comfortable doing it. So I took a shot on the yes on that. That's what I have in my pocket right now. Who's to say I won't have 4 or 5 more things by the time the game gets.
So fourth down attempts on their side or conversions? Okay, so they got to convert it. Okay, yeah. Convert it. I wanted to write this down. And Hurts over his passing yards or number of attempts?
Barkley over receiving yards, 13.5.
Okay, Barkley over receiving yards, 13.5. So Hurts was my typo. Okay, makes sense. Those are great props. I mean, one that I played this week was a number of Eagles to catch a pass. The number of Eagles was 5.5, and I went 6 because I think the usual suspects, Barkley, Gainwell, Brown, Smith, and Goddard, that's 5. I mean, seriously, Philly special maybe to Hurts, or you got Calcutta there. The Eagles are going to probably attack with tight ends. You got Dobson. They caught a bunch of balls this year. You have a lot of players, or Dobson, I should say, not Dobson. He caught plenty this year. You have a lot to get over 5.5. There's plus 100s out on that 5.5, and I think they will be throwing the ball some. So I really like that one, coming in as well. What's funny, I was just on Will's show for Wednesday, and he's like, "Man, I wish I could just tease this Eagles side here. It's a perfect teaser number." I was like, "Well, maybe Mike will open like the Bengals Ravens for next year. We're not sure what week it is, and then it'll be a +2 for the Ravens at Cincinnati." Maybe I'll ask Mike to do you a solid on that one. It is a perfect teaser.
It is a teaser leg. Then he's got to, tease the total down if I would do that if I was looking for a teaser leg. There will be cross-sport parlays as well, but not to tease to. We will release those starting on Wednesday this week. So we've kind of layered all the props as they've come out. And we've got all the player-specific ones. We've got some of the special ones, the team ones, the indices ones. And then we'll add some more. One thing that's a little disappointing is, usually there's a Vegas Golden Knights game on Super Bowl Sunday. They usually play at 9:30, 10 in the morning. Not this year. It's Canadian teams are playing in those games, which makes sense. But there'll be cross-sport parlays with those early college basketball, NHL, and NBA games.
Well, you can do my Badgers. My Badgers play the basketball game there, so think about that. I'm not sure. I can't remember who they play, but that could be a fun one too, throwing a little college basketball into a professional type league. I don't know if that's even possible, but they will play. I think, it says Iowa. No, that says Saturday. So I thought it was, but you could do it for Saturday too, since you're going to be releasing them this week. But that's, throwing college basketball in there is kind of interesting. I'd be interested in that. There's going to be, looks like some more is going to be out there. What are you guys going to be exposed on, you think? From a prop perspective, I've heard things like Saquon Barkley with his 2 touchdown prop is going to be a popular one, Mike.
Yeah, it's a popular one. I think you're going to see a lot of Barkley, a lot of Kelsey stuff out there. And look, if those players have big games, we're probably going to be on the wrong side of it. The public wants to bet positive things. Just remember that. And so as many times as we see pros like to arbitrage these numbers, because, they're off, a prop might be off 4 or 5 yards, or it might be off 30 cents from book to book. It's not as an exactive science as is making the number. And obviously the markets aren't as liquid. It's still going to be the public that drives things. That's why I think this total will probably close at 50 or 50.5. And the prop market will lean towards human accomplishment, towards people going over their passing, receiving, and rushing yards. The MVP market, I think, is going to be heavily bet again this year. And with Mahomes at plus 120, people will be looking for alternatives to that. I mean, if people want to bet Mahomes at plus 120, they're just not going to bet the Chiefs at minus 125 as a way of trying to increase their payout on that. But, I thought, and I looked at, we did it too. Most books opened Hurts and Barkley at the same odds, which I said that the market won't sustain this because I think there are many more scripts where Barkley wins MVP than Hurts. And now as we look, Barkley's plus 270 and Hurts is plus 340.
Yeah.
I also think voters, remember, of the likely candidates for MVP, only one had a MVP type season. That's not to say Barkley has no shot of winning it, but I think most feel it's between the two quarterbacks, Jackson and Allen. But remember, they have a shot to reward him here. Remember when they gave it to Cooper Kupp a few years ago? I think that was more based on the season than the game. So I think he gets the benefit of the doubt and a close vote for MVP as well.
Yeah, very possible. But they would be thrown out to Barkley, giving him a little reward for everything he's been through and the Giants, and then that big change that happened, and he not going to be MVP, but that's a good secondary prize for him. I mean, I'm kind of hoping the Chiefs kick 6 field goals to win 18-15 because 250 to 1 on Butker could happen. I mean, would they not give it to him for scoring all the points? I did see the Steelers beat the Ravens this year, but with the kicker scoring all the points.
Yeah, and the kicking was the difference in that game. As it turns out, maybe more was going on the Baltimore side than we knew. But when the Patriots played the Rams, I listened to Michael Lombardi give the symposium at South Point, Betting and Budweiser's, hosted by Brett. And I went there that Friday night and listened. And he kept talking about Goff's eye level and how his eye level was dropping and yards per attempt. And I bet every under you could bet in that game. I had no score first 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, first quarter under, first half under, game under, both teams under. And I bet both kickers for MVP. I said, maybe this game is 12-6 or 12-9. And the kicker went like Zerline was 175 to 1. I mean, I get that theory at those prices. I think it's worth a little pizza.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think there's more than a 1% chance. Maybe it's 1.5. But I don't like Elliott as much as I like Butker, and I think Butker is the guy that would do it. And if that Chiefs defense, which holds how well they are in the red zone, it could be just one of those games. And so I might put some money in every year, just to see if it works. And nothing wrong with that. Have a little fun with it. And I mean, the truth is that even if it's 200 to 1, it has value sometimes. It doesn't mean that it's a square bet. I would give you
this in defense of your bet too of Butker, because I was, he's coming off the injury, and I said, is his leg strength back? Is he at full? Is it? And I talked to people around Kansas City. He's 80 to 85%. And then I watched that playoff game against the Texans. Going in that one direction, Fairburn couldn't even get the ball close to the end zone on the kickoffs. Butker was putting it in the end zone. So I think his leg strength is back to that point. I don't think you have to worry about, maybe now he's only good inside of 50. I think the strength's all the way back.
Oh, there you go, and that's music to my ears, because I do think the first score will also be a field goal, which I bet every year happens almost all the time in the Super Bowl because teams tend to tense up a little bit. So a couple I'm playing also first score field goal, the over 5.5 players that receive or make a completion, as well as the field goal. Hopefully, cross my fingers for MVP. We like those long shots every once in a while, and if you hit one, you're doing pretty well on your day. Well, I mean, I have to ask you. I think you kind of mentioned if gun to the head, or if I gave you $500, who would you have to bet on the Super Bowl, even if you're 50-50?
Yeah, I would take the Eagles. I do think they're the better team, and I think they've gotten better since they played 2 years ago in Phoenix. And remember, in that game with like 8 minutes left in the first half, the Eagles were up 10 with the ball, and Hurts just dropped it. And it was the scoop and score, and then they couldn't stop them in the second half. I think the Eagles are better on both sides of the ball. Obviously, Barkley. And then, and I think Jalen Carter may have a big factor in this game as well, because you have to create negative plays for the Chiefs. Mahomes just isn't going to go out there and throw 3 incompletions. They're going to punt. They need to get a holding penalty. You need to sack him in order to make them punt the ball. That always has to happen on their possessions for them to punt. It isn't just they run 3 plays and punt. There has to be a negative play. And so I think Carter will play a factor in that. So I'm not going to bet the side, but thank you for the 500. I'll put it on the Eagles.
There you go. We'll give you some bonus points for that. 500 on the. So I agree with you too. I'm just going with my metric handicap, even though I say, maybe I'm just taking the blue pill here because I'm not seeing that the Chiefs are clutch when they win, and sure they do figure out how to get the flags, and it happens. But you know what? If I'm going to just make a pick, I would pick the Eagles. I'm not making a bet on the side, and I'd rather take an alt line on the Eagles -6.5 plus 260 right now, because I think if the Eagles are going to win, they have to be up by a couple scores. So, and I just think if it comes down to the end and they're only at 5 points, it's over for them. They're going to lose because that's what Mahomes does, and that's what the Chiefs do, and they do have the coaching advantage. I did take the first half under 24.5. I think the Chiefs are so smart. They go out there and they're going to drain the clock. They want the game to end right when it begins. They don't want to get in a shootout. That's how Spags defense works. That's how the Chiefs work, because they know how good they are in that situation. 17-0 in one-score games. I think it starts out slow. I like the first half under 24.5, and maybe that gets better if this gets up to 50. But right now, that number is probably around 23.5 in most books, Mike.
Yep. I hear your theory. They are the slowest snap rate team. They snap the ball with the least amount of seconds left on the clock outside of 4-minute football in either half. And when they get the lead, it comes even slower. So I understand the theory.
All right. Well, where can our listeners get your information on how to have a great time this weekend at the Circa?
Yeah. You can go to circalasvegas.com and then click on any of the different venues. There's a link to Big Game as well, and it'll break it down for you, and it'll show you what's available at Circa. You can go on the D Las Vegas website as well for seats in the ballroom or at Bar Canada or Downtown Las Vegas Event Center. DTLV, you can go on for the big outdoor party as well. So you basically you have 5 options, and for the first time, we're going to do an after party at Legacy Club, the rooftop bar at Circa. So Wilbo's putting together a party up there as well. So we'll see how long we can keep people into the night.
That whole club is the best seat in the house, my man. I love being up at the Legacy Club. You're going to throw out some more tweets this week of maybe a couple more prop plays?
Oh yeah, I'll keep the folks updated. You can follow me on Twitter, or X as they call it now, at Mike Palm Circa. And each time I add something to the portfolio, I'll post it up there.
All right, Mike. Well, thanks again for coming on and breaking all this down, my man. I look forward to seeing you again soon. And if I don't talk to you, have a wonderful weekend.
Kiev, thank you, and keep up the great work.